the time was wondering which environmental issue was in our home that gave our child Kawasaki's disease. Well, it was about 20 days post an MMR. My son was falling down, smashing his head on the floor, lost his speech, got hypotonia, was put into the ER with measles, vaccine strain measles, which was strain A. And he immediately regressed in every single thing in his life. My beautiful, sweet son became violent. He began throwing things. He couldn't walk properly. He couldn't speak properly. He needed OT-PT speech. And he cost the taxpayers of this country millions of dollars to educate. He had a one-to-one aide. He had that aide for over 8 years. And I began listening to every doctor I could listen to who thought differently. And I began to listen to Dr. Gary Knoll, and I began to listen to Dr. Pilevsky, and I began to listen to the great healers that are out there amongst us, warriors who are not afraid to speak. And I began to heal my son. And this year is the first year in my son's life, he's 13, that he's in school without a full-time aide. I want you to know that I was raised by a pastor in Inwood. My father and mother never took us to the doctor. We are 5 children. We are the healthiest people I know. I'm almost 50 years old. There's not one person with autism in my immediate family. There is not one person that's on the spectrum. There is never been this in our family before. And I will never, ever, ever stop fighting for children in this country and for mothers and fathers to have the right to say what is injected into their body. And once my husband, who finished as far as you can go in college, read the ingredients that were in the CDC excipient list, he was in awe that no one in law school is being taught about this, that doctors we have taught to do not know this. And I have gone around New York and interviewed hundreds of doctors. Not one is taught how to file a VAERS report. I sat with the head, and I have it on video, of Columbia's ER, Children Pediatric Unit. He had never seen VAERS.hhs.gov, and it's on video, and I posted it on Facebook. He had never seen it. So if the doctors who are supposed to be filing the vaccine adverse event reports have no clue that they are the ones filing the reports, how do we know that the children are being injured? I love you guys. I'll fight for you till the day I die, and I will never take a vaccine.
Stories you're not going to see in the newspapers or the medical journals. And these personal accounts I consider to be very, very important. The next person is Sheila Alien, another parent, another fireball.
Thank you, Curtis. You just told me to give me a 1-minute warning if necessary. Just my thing. Today I had another speech in mind, but since I'm speaking as a parent, there's a lot about my story you don't know, so I'm going to speak as a parent of a vaccine-injured child. My son, who is now 20 years old, went to a Navy clinic, medical clinic, at 12 months of age. He was 1 week shy of, 10 days actually shy of being 13 months with his twin sister, and my other daughter is 14 months older than the twins.
You all know that he received the HIB, the DTaP, and 2 doses of the MMR, and I lost him that night. What you don't know about my story is this. From the beginning, I said there was a double dose of that MMR that did that to my son. I took him around the country and out of the country seeking help for this child. I took him to one of the best DAN doctors in the country, who I later befriended and finally told me, Sheila, I've taken him as far as I can go with him. There's something more going on with your son. It started another journey for us, a journey of seeking what more was going on with my son. Because at the time, I was training to be a behaviorist, to not only work with my son, but work with other children. So I was going out doing practicums, working with other people's children, coming home saying to myself, this is not autism. This child is physically ill, and he has more. Doctor after doctor after doctor told me there is more, but I don't know what it is. I took him to one of the top neurologists who did a scan of his brain and an MRI. And he said, listen, I've seen many autism brains, but I haven't seen one like this. This child has no development. He has nothing here in his temporal lobe or his frontal lobe. Nothing. But yet, he has brain damage. That's how extensive his damage was. Finally, after being homeless for 2 years after Hurricane Katrina, I get back to New Orleans, and a geneticist moves there, and he gives me a phone call because I had been an activist in that area since that happened to my child. And I had talked about it on many newscasts. I was laughed at, ridiculed, joked about, blacklisted from doctor after doctor's office. But I didn't care because I knew what had happened to my son. And I had prayed and asked God for vindication. Let the truth be revealed. So with this doctor, I gave him a seminar where hundreds of parents showed up. And when he stood there and he talked about mitochondrial disease. He showed pictures of children with mitochondrial disease. You see, I was too busy raising 3 young children, so I didn't have time to watch TV. I knew nothing about Hannah Poling. But when he said that, I told him, that's my son. He said, well, he will be my first patient. I take Temple in a week later. He did, back then, it wasn't as simple as it is now with a simple blood test. He had to have a tissue of his muscle cut out in outpatient surgery. He had that cut out. He had it sent off. It took 8 months to come back. And when it came back, his words were devastating. He looked at me and he said, this child has primary mitochondrial disease. I looked at him and I said, you stand and you tell me, and don't lie to me, look me in my eyes and tell me that those vaccines didn't do it. He said, Mother, I will not. The vaccines did it.
Yes, they did.
So what I'm saying to you, as a mother or a father, God gives us something within us that no man can take away. Follow your intuition, because that's the Spirit of God talking to you through you. And I will speak to the Black Indigenous people in the audience today. Remember who you are and the struggle that has brought you here. Marion Sims didn't give 2 cents about Black enslaved women. He experimented on them without any form of sedative, anesthesia. The slave master sold them to be experimented on or got paid to do it, while other Black women held them down. This country has never, ever been appropriate to a certain segment of the population, and it still isn't. I remember after I got my son's diagnosis, which was really early, 18 months, I would go into offices and have doctors ask me, how did you get this diagnosis? This doesn't happen to black children. This is a wealthy white person's disease. I say, well, his blood runs red like everyone else's, and he is what they say he is. I took him to 6 doctors, hoping that I would get something different, and at least one of those developmental pediatricians or neurologists would say to me, listen, take him home, go do occupational therapy, physical therapy and speech therapy, and then bring him back in 6 months. And within 5 minutes of every visit, the doctors put his file down and said, I don't need to go any further. We don't need to prolong this. This child is profoundly, severely autistic. He's so autistic he had to be born like this. And I told that one neurologist, no, he was not. This is a vaccine injury. He dismissed me from his office, gladly. But I am going to say this. There is no such thing as a free and appropriate education. So if you're vaccinating your children for that free and appropriate education, think again. Those schools are paid for by our tax dollars, whether you own property or not. Every time you go to the local grocery store, you pay taxes for those schools. So that makes you a partner in your child's public school education. And try putting a child with a diagnosis of intellectual disability or autism in those schools and see what you get. You will not get what Stephanie got, millions of dollars. Rather, what you will get is a child further diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder and all kinds of behavioral conditions that they can't handle. Your child will go locked up in a closet somewhere so that they can teach the other children, and that child will be sent back home to you. Speaking as a mother, as someone who comes from a long line of strong black indigenous people and white people too, Native Americans too, rise up. No school is worth vaccinating your child for. Stand strong in your truth. If you have to leave the state, take the great Exodus out. They did it out of Egypt, even though it took 40 years. They did it out of the South after slavery was abolished, and you do the same. Stalin once said, America is a strong, great country. They have their patriotism, their family, and their spirituality. So the only way to conquer it is to divide it and conquer it within. The enemy is within. It is not anywhere coming from Russia, China, or any other country. Your enemy is within. You're sitting in the Capitol in Albany. It doesn't matter what your socioeconomic status is. We all have a voice. Use it. We all have a right to our patriotism. This is a republic, not a democracy. And as such, it is to this republic we took an oath to. Even those of us who had taxation without representation and who have fought hard to assimilate into this country. We are not going away, and we will not be bullied or coerced into doing so. Find your voice. Be the change you want to see. You have the power of one you, whether it's in a 1-block radius or around this country or international. Use it. Rise up. Find your strength. Because remember this, God didn't promise you an easy way. But if you're faithful, He did promise you that He would be with you.
Amen.
At a meeting on this topic, and she gave me a lift home. My driver never showed up, but she was very gracious. And she's been extremely active. She's been one of the people going to the various rallies in Albany and other places, and so she's really a fireball and committed. Sharon Madrid.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sharon Madrid, and I hail from the Bronx, the Boogie Down. My curiosity in questioning the entire vaccine schedule began when learning about how the hepatitis B vaccine is given to 99% of all U.S. newborns, despite it being an infection that can only come from dirty needles or unprotected sex. Not knowing any newborns who met these criteria moved me to dig deeper. Keep in mind that all mothers are tested during pregnancy, so if she's positive, that would be the only time the baby would need to receive this vaccine. Secondly, being a child raised in the 80s, I couldn't understand why my children would need 72 doses before the age of 18, considering we lived in the same environment and ate the same food. My parents were diligent about keeping my records, and I know for sure that I didn't receive 72. And I'm alive, as you can see. Plus, I'm on no medication. Just to keep this in mind, in 1984, children received 24 doses or less, not 72. Being a first-generation American, I know it was very important for my parents to comply with what doctors recommended, because as many of you can probably attest to, many of our families came to the U.S. thinking that a developed country is always doing right by the health of its citizens. I also couldn't help to ask why there were so many sick children now, when kids should be healthier in 2019 than when I was a child. A common conversation I have with parents in playground revolves around learning disabilities, seizures, IP meetings, and chronic disease in their children. And it's to the point where I almost never meet a child who is medication-free. Moreover, having become familiar with all the neurotoxins and vaccines over these last 12 years as a parent, I'd be ready to debate anyone who's willing to say that vaccines are not contributing to the state of health of our children today. And by the way, you don't need to be a scientist to read and research ingredients. Only reading comprehension is required. My family was forced to homeschool after June 13th of this year. We practically had no time to prepare for this big change. Homeschooling is not the choice legislators have been trying to paint to us. New Yorkers know to read between the lines. We are both street smart and book smart. The real deal is that when my kids were in school, I could work as I wished, and I could count on them being in a school building from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. with an after-school program to follow, both of which my tax dollars helped to fund. With homeschooling, I've had to quit one of my jobs. So the setup as a homeschooling parent is very different than one who can send their child to school. And so the only choice they're really giving us is to comply, which for me, it simply ain't gonna happen. However, for others, the choice to quit a job may not be so doable, and that is simply not right. In closing, you too may be in this predicament come the next school year with the new New York bills in the works for the HPV and flu vaccine, which will require all children to have both in order to attend daycare or school, despite their parents' wishes. And so, I strongly urge each of you to get involved. Here are 4 action items for each of you. Number 1, follow Rita Palma on Facebook. She is one of our fearless leaders and organizers here in New York, along with John Gilmore. Become a member of Children's Health Defense. We can all afford $10 to become a member. Get familiar with who your New York State Assembly member and senators are and stand out by using the old school method of picking up the phone and showing up to their office. All you have to say is that you oppose these bills. You can say more if you wish, but you can leave it at that. Finally, join the public page named HPV and Flu Shot Awareness New York to stay informed before the next legislative season, which begins in 12 weeks. As Margaret Mead, anthropologist and graduate of Barnard College and Columbia, just a few blocks down from us today, said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. I just want those of you to know that we got over 300, we got close to 300 people in here, but that's not it. We have CNN here, we have Hulu here, we have a movie company that's doing a documentary on this, so your words is going to spread all over the country and all over the world. Your voice is really heard. And those of you in the audience, let them know how you feel. It's okay, cheer and shout. It's okay. Let the world know you're serious about this. Next speaker we have here is Alexandra Francisca. Alexandra? Okay. I first met her at an event on this topic a few months ago. And one of the things that impressed me the most, even though she'll tell you her story, she has 2 autistic kids, very positive, upbeat attitude. You normally expect somebody dealing with the stress of that with a different mindset, different thing, but she was very positive, and I said, look, I got to bring someone like this on to the stage. So, Alexandra.
Thank you for providing this platform for us to speak. Hi, my name is Alexandra Ponsica, and I'm a mother to twin 7-year-old vaccine-injured boys and an unvaccinated 1.5-year-old. Because when you know better, you do better. I wish something had told me these vaccines would alter our lives forever. So I am here to tell you a quick story, one that the media won't cover. My twin 7-year-old boys, Caleb and Noah, were diagnosed with severe nonverbal autism and woke up 3 hours earlier than usual one morning. When they wake up earlier than usual, it's not really the most pleasant thing to wake up to. This morning was hearing Noah howling a monstrous cry like the world was ending, a cry that I hear chronically throughout the day. Opening the door to their bedroom, it often reeks of urine, as they soiled their diapers throughout the night, even though my husband and I change their diapers at midnight every night and use inserts to try to spare them from leaking. My husband, thankfully, was still home getting ready for work and responded to Noah's cry and brought him into bed with me, which didn't last longer than a quick minute because Noah began his routine fidgeting, begging, and wailing for his iPhone with a sound unrecognizable to anyone but me and those who are familiar with him. But I like to start off my day so positive, so at least I was able to sneak in a quick cuddle. Noah had obviously woken up my baby Owen, since he sleeps in bed with me. So we got up and heard Caleb shouting in his room and got out of his room too. Now it's time to change their diapers and remove their soiled clothes. So I un-Velcro the strap around their waist, take off their onesie, which has a bigger back zipper pajama, and remove the packaging tape wrapped around their waist surrounding their karate singlets underneath. All fail-safes in place to avoid poop smearing. I finally gave Noah his iPhone and Caleb his Fire tablet so that I could continue to make breakfast. Noah went into a full-blown meltdown, headbanging the floor because I forgot to turn on the Wi-Fi, because he woke up earlier than usual. So I had to calm him down and prevent him from headbanging while I'm turning the Wi-Fi back on. Finally had a quick moment, made a celery juice, started their oatmeal, whoop, that was done. Smelled poop and changed their diapers again. Sat them down for breakfast. Okay, phew, I can run to pee for the first time in the day. Brought Noah to the potty to see if he would go, because it would be so nice if he could go to the potty at 7 years old. Yay, went, awesome, let's celebrate. Brought Caleb to the party. He hates it, battle. Help the boys drink water because at 7 years old, they still can't independently drink from the cup. So I have to help there and stand there and monitor them so that they don't spill accidentally or purposefully, which is more often the case. I try to get breakfast dishes done or make myself coffee and prepare for the day. Caleb is in a stage where he's sick of his Fire tablet and keeps stealing Noah's iPhone, and Noah doesn't know how to take it back, so he headbangs. I run and grab it back from Caleb and give it to Noah, and we continue to play this game in between me doing dishes. You know, one dish into the dishwasher, run to grab the iPhone from Caleb and give it back to Noah. Another dish into the dishwasher, change the song on the YouTube so that it fits Noah's request. Okay, dishes are done. I smell poop. Caleb pooped in his diaper, so I change him. Check to see if Noah has one. Nope, good, okay. Finish packing their backpack. I smell poop. Noah pooped in his diaper, so I change him. Please understand, with autism and their underlying gut issues, these are massive poops. I wash my hands and see Caleb trying to climb over our bi-level mantle, which is very high and very dangerous, and my husband hasn't secured it yet, which is fine because we're constantly trying to catch up with these safety measures. I don't want to yell at Caleb because if I do, it'll reinforce the behavior, but also don't want to ignore it because if he falls, he could break his neck and die. I brush my wet hands very quickly on my pants and try to redirect him. Noah tries to climb over gates to get into the kitchen because he sees my phone. They're not allowed in the kitchen because there are too many items they can't touch and break or get into that would hurt them, things like knives, the stove, I don't know, you know. They're 7 years old and we still need to keep everything baby-proof. Glasses of water can't be left on countertops or coffee tables. We can't have coffee tables because they'll knock those over too. I hear Caleb's swift little feet running down the hallway into his room and out of sight and think, man, with all the poop smears happening lately, I should probably keep him out of his bedroom and in eyesight. So I run to go grab Caleb, but I didn't make it in time. Poop smear. Caleb's hand waving at me proudly with poop in his hand, and of course he has Noah's iPhone. And Noah is running after me, begging for it back, about to headbang. So I grab Caleb and lock the door behind me and go to wash his hands and face, and change him into a new set of clothes while Noah begs me for his iPhone, and that is sitting in their locked room covered in poop. I go to clean their bedroom and Noah's iPhone and give it back to him. At least Owen is having fun in the kitchen, playing with pots and pans. I start to feel like I have to use the bathroom myself, except there's no way in hell I can leave the room until 20 minutes later when the boys' bus arrives and they leave for school. A luxury, so to speak, that over 26,000 families have been stripped from, and their special needs children cannot attend school unless they comply. This is a typical day in the life of the kind of autism not spoken about by the media, and I'm not freaking scared of measles. I'm just a mom. But all of these great speakers who are here today are here because we never want to see another child or another family go through and struggle the way we do. So please, open your heart, open your ears, and hear the information we have to share. It's valuable and can save your child's life. Thank you.
The parents speaking is probably the most important part because you never get to hear these type of stories on the local news and the local news paper. And I really admire Alexandra a great deal. You hear what she's going through every single day. So I'll tell you this, for those parents who are on the wall, maybe I should go ahead and get the kids vaccinated and get them back in school. Remember her story before you make that decision. Do your homework first. And I really appreciate her taking time to come in because I can see her hands. She was nervous. A lot of parents have not spoken before an audience before, but she did it. Thank you. The next speaker is Danielle Marciano. Is a very, very special lady, dear to my heart. I met her a few months ago at one of these events. Not easy getting on stage with cameras and everything else. And she's a real another fireball committed to this cause. She's done a lot of different things to help make this event happen. She's helped me because when I'm not reading and listening to her presentation, she was listening to mine. So she's a fireball. She's great. Yeah.
Plenty of people from the community.
Plenty
of people from the community.
Not to remind me about the cameras. I have to do that right before I speak. Thanks, I don't know. My heart goes out to the parents that spoke before me. I'm fortunate enough to not be in opposition, but I'm fighting for everybody who has young children and those children to stop. You learned all the dangers that you heard today and the stories. Please take that into consideration. There's nothing more compelling than a parent of an injured child from vaccines, from something you were told to trust, when in fact it did quite the opposite. That being said, when are people going to realize what is happening here? How many more children have to die or become seriously injured? I'm having a hard time understanding that when the facts are so clear and corruption is so obvious, why are people still reluctant to accept the truth? At what point does one realize that injecting toxins into your body, such as aluminum, mercury, and aborted fetal DNA, to name a few, is not normal? It's dangerous, and it has been proven so. Look at our children. Talk to the parents of those seriously injured children. Are you going to tell them they're lying? Like the doctors who deny that it's a result of the vaccines? Healthy babies don't just die. Kids, no explanation. Not even want to admit to. Healthy kids ironically suddenly develop reactions after being vaccinated. The doctors will tell you there's no link. As a mother, it's my natural instinct to love and protect my children at any cost. So when I hear about anything that may pose a threat to them, you can rest assured that I am going to vigorously research the issue. And when it came to vaccines, I have extensively researched both sides of the argument. That is the only way to make an informed choice. Fortunately for me, my instincts to question the safety of vaccines kicked in prior to having children. And an internal alarm sounded one day when I began to question, what exactly are they injecting into my body? And what are the side effects of these ingredients? At the time, I didn't know what I know today. I just listened to my doctor. Getting shots was second nature. But thankfully, my instincts, they saved me from further damaging my body and my future children. You have been presented with many scientifically proven facts today, and we'll hear more from our other speakers. I hope everyone here keeps an open mind and casts aside their fear. The fear that has been instilled upon us all after many years of brainwashing by those we trust our lives to. Does holding a medical degree make someone more qualified to research? No. Does it make someone more honest? No. Does it make them exempt from making mistakes? No. Or prone to corruption? Yes. Have faith in yourself to do your own research, to be able to distinguish the truth from the lies, to see through corruption, and most importantly, to trust your instincts. I'm sorry for going over time. I have learned and have seen one too many children affected by unnecessary vaccinations. As a teacher, and on a personal level, I have yet to hear or see any benefit or safety study proving that they are safe or effective. I know you can contract an illness even if you were vaccinated against it. And for these reasons, I refuse to play Russian roulette for my child's life. Because I know if I did, I know something very bad would happen to them. Whether immediately or later on down the line. And they will no longer be the happy, healthy, beautiful, intelligent children that I know. And I could never live with myself after having done that. I trust God, who has given us both an immune system and instincts to protect us. I do not trust Big Pharma and its puppets who have an agenda controlled by money, power, and greed at the expense of our lives. The more people who are becoming aware of the dangers and ineffectiveness of vaccines, the more scare tactics are being used to make people believe that not getting vaccinated is a big health threat and that the unvaccinated are the cause, when in fact, the opposite is true. The science does not lie, but those in power do. And the more we turn a blind eye, the more they are taking control of our bodies and making decisions for our children, such as mandating vaccines to our kids against our knowledge and consent. It's coming. It's coming. And it did already start. I don't know about you, but I do not want, nor will allow anyone to control my body or that of my child. It's not the government's right, and unless we unite and take a stand, we're done. We can't wait. I'm sorry, I'm a bit angry at people because it's gotten to the point where the corruption is so obvious. It's not a matter of opinion here and your beliefs on vaccines or not. I mean, all the media press and the scare tactics of what's going on, turning a blind eye now is just complete ignorance. And that ignorance is nothing of our lives as a nation, as a people, as humanity. And while we will continue to be criticized for spreading misinformation, causing public health threats, I too would like medical professionals who believe this to be the case to come forward and participate in a debate with the other side. Prove us all wrong. Show us your real science. And show us the safety studies. We've been waiting. If you truly care about your patients and the well-being of society, then back up your claims with proof. I don't know, I'm just a regular person. And simply stating that vaccines are safe and effective doesn't convince me. Not when the proof is otherwise so compelling. And I could go on, but time is limited and we have so much more to hear from other wonderful people today. I'm not saying I'm wonderful, I'm just saying. You are. Who, like me, are also speaking from their heart because they are passionate and because they care. This really bothers me because I have taken too much valuable time away from my very young children, only 1 year old and 3.5. Because of this battle I'm trying to fight in order to protect them. Precious time I can never get back. And that truly upsets me. But if I don't continue this fight, what's to become of them? Of all our children? Of our entire society? I really hope everyone does their own research and really considers all that they will hear today. Because one cannot make an informed choice if they are not informed of the truth. And if afterwards you still believe in vaccines, then it's your individual choice to make. And no one else's. And that's how it should be. I would like to conclude with a poem I have written during one of my many awakenings throughout the night, with these thoughts running through my mind. Not to mention, I just revised this whole entire thing at 5:45 in the morning. Anyhow, here's my little poem. One of them. I trust you, Mommy, to do what's best. But how do we break free from the rest? They're taking over our bodies. They want us sick. Why do so many people keep falling for their trick? I know how hard you fight and will continue to, even if no one realizes all you do. I will forever be grateful that you're my mother, because I know you will always fight for me like no other. Thank you all. Claire, thank you for asking your honor to speak while you're going to control. Is everybody coming? Even though they try to shut us down? Yes, they did. I would have taken us outside in the rain, I don't care. Tell your friends, tell your family, you need to get them involved. It's our life. We have nothing to lose by telling the truth. Dr. Pileski and everybody like him. But what do the other doctors have to lose? Just think about that. I made copies of this for later. If you want, it's just a poem, but I also have some list of references that really have helped me in my research, although it didn't take anything more than number one, my instincts, and a lecture with my now children's pediatrician, Dr. Pileski. Thank you again for all of our children that we have here today.
Minister and big hand, Daniel. You work very, very hard. Our next speaker is John Gilmore. He's been very active on the autism issue, and he's an active member in children's self-defense. And I'll let him just go into more details. And John, is he here?
Wow, what a great group. So my name is John Gilmore. I love you too. And I wear a number of hats. My oldest hat is as the Executive Director of the Autism Action Network. And I'll just tell you a little bit how I got into this. My youngest son, Luke, was injured 3 times in his first year of life with the 3 rounds of vaccines that he had. With the last one, he had a really profound progression and developed sort of classic autism symptoms as a result of it. And he's 19 years old right now. He's nonverbal. And his story has sort of been kind of propelled me through my sort of political journey, because at every stage of his life where he needed something, it simply didn't exist or was sort of in a very bad state. And I got involved politically because I've always been sort of a political animal to try and help my son, but I realized also the only way I can help my son is by helping others as well. So that's what the Autism Action Network is about, and so we do autism issues and we also do vaccine issues. But I also wear a couple other hats. One of the other hats I wear is I work with the New York Alliance for Vaccine Rights. And I want all of you in New York to work with the New York Alliance for Vaccine Rights. Basically, it is a grassroots organization organized along Senate district and Assembly district lines to effect political change. And maybe this is time to do this. Everybody look to the person to your left, and then look to the person to your right. Okay? Those people, folks, are the people who are going to protect your rights. Okay? The people in this room, we do not have friends in Albany. We do not have friends in the corporate media. Okay? We do not have friends in sort of the political elite of the United States. Right? Fortunately, grassroots activism still counts for something, despite what we saw this year in New York. And the last hat I wear is that we are in the process of Mary Holland, Rita Palmer, and a number of other people organizing a chapter of Children's Health Defense here in New York. That will soon be launched. So let's talk a little what's going on in New York. I don't obviously have to tell you what happened on June 13th. I think we all know quite a bit about that already, right? We no longer have religious exemption rights in New York, right? But that is not the end of the story. There's a lot of other stuff going on, and things are bad now, and they could get worse, and they will get worse unless you and me and everybody else in this room gets actively engaged in working on our assembly members, on the governor, on media that we have access to, and our state senators to try and change the way things are going. And before I get into the individual bills, there's kind of a number of levels that we can analyze this, okay? One, on the sort of politician level, I'll get into that in a little bit. But one thing you gotta remember, and I think you all realize this, is the politicians aren't really calling the shots on most things, and they're not calling the shots on vaccine policy issues in New York or anywhere else. Right? Who we are fighting for, fighting against, we know who we're fighting for. Who we are fighting against, folks, is Pfizer, Merck, Sanofi, and Glaxo. The big four drug companies, they're the four largest drug companies in the world, and they are the four largest vaccine companies in the world, and the four of them control about 90% of the global vaccine market, which is worth an estimated $59 billion. Okay. With those $59 billion in sales that they have, they buy themselves a lot of influence. And unfortunately, right now, where they are getting the sort of most influence is with a faction of the Democratic Party. Okay. I'm sure a lot of you guys are Democrats here. I am a Democrat, but, well, not anymore, okay. But that is where the problem lies, right? If you take a look at the vote for the repeal in New York, if you combine the votes of both houses, 4 Republicans voted for repeal and 122 Democrats did. Okay? Tell me where the problem is. Okay? So I'm not saying you should go out and register Republican or anything like that, but we need to focus on where the problem is, right? And this is true in other states as well. Okay? The only place that these bills are moving are in states where Democrats have across-the-board control of the Senate, the lower house, and the governor. California, Maine, and I'm sure Connecticut and Massachusetts and New Jersey are going to be in big trouble this coming session. Right? So that's where things are going. Right? Now, it's just really kind of weird, you know. I grew up in a neighborhood where, you know, every other house had a picture of John F. Kennedy on the wall. Right? I don't think I met a Republican until I was in high school. And I don't recognize where the Democratic Party is going right now. You know, it's very, very, very troubling, right? Now let's think about this a little bit. In 2014, there were 2 states that did not have religious exemptions. Mississippi and West Virginia. And somehow this idea that you should not have a religious exemption went from Mississippi to California and New York and Maine. What is wrong with this picture? Right? 1963, okay? I think we've all seen the picture, okay? George Wallace, literally standing in the door of the University of Alabama to block African-American students from registering, right? And what do we have now, okay? In Andrew Cuomo's New York, we have the state literally standing in the doorway of the school of 26,000 students based on their serological status or their religious beliefs. Right? So we're in a really strange situation. But it's not hopeless, okay? The vote that we had on June 13th, folks, in Albany terms, was incredibly close. The tradition in Albany is that there is a vote, they work it out, and by the time it gets to the floor, it's basically a done deal. And everybody jumps on the bandwagon, so the vote is 145-3 or something like that, okay? We were 66-84, okay? That is incredibly close. And we know for a fact that we had 12 votes in the assembly from people who told us within days of the vote that they were going to vote no, okay? And I imagine what happened is once they saw it was going to lose, they just said, I don't want to tick off the leadership, so I'm just going to go with the program, all right? So, you know, we do have a base of support in Albany that we can draw upon, right? Now, this upcoming session, we have, I think, 3 bills that we really need to worry about. These are the bills that I think are threatening and have a chance of passing. The most threatening by far is a bill that would allow children to consent to vaccines for sexually transmitted diseases. That means Gardasil and hepatitis B. Right? The way the bill is written, a child of any age can consent to hepatitis B, right? If the person administering the shot believes the child has the wherewithal to make that decision. And children as young as 9 can get Gardasil. The only reason it stops at 9 is because Gardasil is not licensed for children younger than 9. Right? Now, this bill in the Senate is called S3, write this down, S3899A. Okay? The sponsor of this bill is Liz Kruger, who represents the Upper East Side. Right? That bill was passed in the Senate Health Committee. Okay? On the first day of the session on January 8th, it potentially could get passed in the Senate. They could put it on the floor and boom, pass it. All right? So what that means, we have about 12 weeks, and we've got to work like crazy for the next 12 weeks to make sure that does not happen. Right? Now, these might be unhappy that way too. That same bill in the Assembly is called A973A. And that's Amy Collins' bill. She represents Scarsdale. Okay? That is, I think, the one that has the worst chance, best chance, I don't know which one it is, of passing. Two other threatening bills we have is a mandatory flu shot bill. That was introduced by Senator Brad Wildman, the author of the bill to repeal the religious exemption, who represents the west side of Manhattan. And a companion bill for that, well, that is S2276, if you're taking notes. And the companion bill to that is sponsored by Jeffrey Dinowitz, the same guy. You know who he is, right? Up Broadway, Riverdale, right? That's coming. Now this bill is really kind of interesting, folks, because if you read it quickly, it says that this bill would only require annual flu shots for children in daycare and preschool, which is what they currently have in New York City. Okay? But if you read the bill carefully, and we've had this bill read carefully by some of the best bill readers in Albany, they say, no, it applies to them, but it also applies to K through 12 as well. So this is all kids in school, right? And they're lying about it as they frequently do, right? Last bill I think that we really have to worry about is mandatory Gardasil shots. All right. Again, from our good friend Senator Wellman with S298A, and the companion bill also from Amy Collins Scarsdale is A2912. All right. So I don't think that needs much explanation. All right. So anyway, I think those are the gravest threats that we have in New York right now. I want to mention a couple of federal bills. They don't have much chance of passing, but I think it's indicative of what's happening at the federal level. The weirdest one is House Resolution 179 from Adam Schiff from out in California. And if you read this bill, it actually says that there is no evidence that any injuries or deaths occur to anybody from vaccines. Right. It's 2 + 2 = 5 time. It is Orwell time in the House right now. Okay? In addition to that, there's another bill, HR 2527, which basically does away with religious exemptions across the country. Right? So that has about 25 sponsors now. Now it's picking up support, which is a little frightening. So just beware of that. So what do we do about this? What I want you to do is go on to Facebook and look for the New York Alliance for Vaccine Rights and sign up for it. Through that, you will be directed to a Facebook page specifically for your Senate district. And that will put you in touch with people who are currently involved in political activity in your Senate district, and we're going to use that as a major organizational tool to try and stop these bills and get other goals accomplished. Second thing I want you to do, I want you to go to the Autism Action Network homepage. There's a whole bunch of bills listed there that need action on. Just click on it, and one will help you find out who your assembly member, your state senator is, or your congressperson if you don't know who that is. And it will allow you to send them an email, but more to the point, we'll get you in our database, and we will be able to communicate with you, and you won't be lost to us, and we will not be lost to you. And I think if you do those two things, you'll be on your way to basically being in a position to connect with others and get something done. And with 500 people in the room here, we can get a lot done.
Yes.
Don't underestimate what you can do. I think Sharon gave the famous Margaret Mead quote about that, and it's absolutely true. So thank you very much.
Next speaker is going to be Shakira Moore. Shakira, you know? Okay, this is a very interesting young lady because she's a product of my book, Vaccines Are Dangerous. And she's going to tell you her story, but her mother, I just going to say a little bit about her. She here, Yolanda? Yolanda? Yeah, okay, can you stand up for a second? Come on, stand up, Yolanda, I'm not going to scare her thunder, but I found out only just recently that she had read, her mother had told her about my book, Vaccines Are Dangerous, and while she was pregnant and almost ready to give birth, she refused to read it. Then finally her mother told her, look, at least read the chapter on the ingredients. That scared the daylights out of her. She didn't vaccinate her daughter, and this was the product. So.
Thank you, Curtis. Wow, you didn't tell part of my story. But peace, everyone, family, friends, and everyone who came from afar. I cannot believe the number of people that's in the room today. I am so honored to be on this panel amongst people who have been fighting this war for a very long time, longer than I've been alive. The information given today is astronomical and important for us to digest concerning the health of our future children, or the future of our children, pardon me. My name is Dr. Shakira Moore. I am a holistic practitioner in the science of iridology. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this science, is the ability to determine an individual's state of health by examining of their eyes. There's a story behind everyone's eyes, reflecting the phrase, the eyes are truly the windows to the soul. Thank you. What led me here today amongst all of you is the constant and the deliberate attack against our children and us as a people through the vaccine program. It was Professor Curtis Coss's book, Vaccines Are Dangerous, that has saved my twin brother and I from the poison needle. I am a twin, by the way. After my mother read the book, spent countless hours researching the topic, she made the decision not to vaccinate. I am 26 years old today. As children, we were barely sick, nothing more than what is known as the common cold. We never experienced any diseases that vaccines were created to prevent, such as the measles and chickenpox, things of that. We were raised on a vegetarian lifestyle, taking mineral-rich supplements and herbs to keep us well. As a child, I remember my mother taking us to various health food stores in Brooklyn and Harlem and herbal shops. These are memories I hold near and dear, as her teachings and the lifestyle we experienced saved us from so much unnecessary suffering. I say all of this to you to bring us amount of evidence between health and nutrition. We have been misled into believing that something outside of us can protect us from disease. There is nothing more powerful than you.
Yes.
The Almighty Creator has created all of us as perfect beings. It is when we go against our natural design that destruction begins. We must eat well to be well. A baby's first vaccination is his mother's milk. This is the beginning to building your children's immune system for a lifetime. I have a daughter, she's 4 years old. I strictly breastfed her as an infant, and to this day, I'm still breastfeeding her. Showing no signs of slowing down. She's never had any vaccinations and is very healthy, vibrant, and bright. This is very noticeable. A short story I would like to share with you all. I had a college student come to me to do a report on my daughter and I. He was a daycare provider at the YMCA where I frequently worked out at. His assignment was to study raising vegan, vegetarian children, and boy, did he have his work cut out for him. I told him that after following the lifestyle and the teachings of Dr. Sadie, that I decided to raise my daughter this way. I decided not to vaccinate because of the lineage that my grandmother left behind and my mother carried forth. And that he can see a clear difference between children who are eating well and children who are eating junk. They sit still longer, they have more attention, and she has so much energy compared to other children. Today, I'm speaking for the younger generation and people who are in my generation who still are on the fence of vaccinations. We must arm ourselves with knowledge and understanding on the ways of the world. What is our future looking like? Let's begin to break generational curses of ignorance and inaction. It is up to us to be the voice of our children. Feed your temple vibrant foods so you can stay well and bright. And I'll leave you with this quote. What you eat is your inoculation. Thank you.